So Tene ta tanda tano ngadu chunten la gomba mentimpa korla te si shubare la ta tanda certo jagar popi yodo sung tumta ta pe gonchin ji jong su jong yong tumta te la hajang gomba ngal de pa tende kanya yo mare me pa ki tsurti yo ne tempare la tempare de yena ya tanong nga dru chunting njo la tempe nzumo nzuksa te jiki yen se ta ten ten nzumo nzuksa te pe kal chewa yen bechirna tene ta te manuro waji inchi minchi manuro waji gugre tene ta te ya tanda salton zinmi ta kada lundru ta tene machu lenchi choja chenpo tenzo pe tene yapo yoarela hilu tikpo je ta kun nengo andabo te tenla ne na pe yapo re te yena ya te ten ten zumu tsusa te manoro waje gupa te kal chewa tembarela ta tigi shorla ngaranchu nyamlin na kapsula ya tene ta te jitang tawa te yapo ngusen tawa se du yendrabo te yapo je ngusen di tendo gomba te yapo je chong na ta tela tenen drevo te topgo yoarela tene tawa te yapo je gupe labja na warela tene ta tela te kap la norsan rabo yore norsa la manrowa korsa la magolwa che gupa te kalchewa sumbarela tene te jeso ta tanda kenli mangalwe sul ta tanda to kone te amagemo te torne do ko sunkin te ta zumon zusa te jiki yen senkin ti ni ge tsek ta che te mentemba mandriba tende yebe ge sul da sunare te yen na te la gomba ngalwa chembo yo are besina gomba ngalwa chembo yo mare te gomba tumba yung yo are.
This morning we talked about how the different views are sometimes, there's sometimes incompatibility in the different views. And we talked about the views that came from India, we talked about the views that came from Tibet. And so what will be taught below here is, or after this, is how there is not such a great contradiction between these views. But first we talked about how the different areas of the areas of difference or incompatibility. And it ended with the phrase that I just wonder what it is that their fingers point to. So it's important. What is it? What is it that their fingers are pointing at? We have to know that. We need to know that unmistakably and truly. So whether we talk about it as being the clear and empty freedom from fixation, or the spontaneously pure, or the primordially pure spontaneous presence, or the unaltered innate Mahamudra. All of these are wonderful. They are all really great. And but as it says, that's fine if they accurately refer to the fundamental nature. If they point to the nature that is good, but we have to be definite about it. We have to know definitely what is it that they are pointing a finger at here. We need to know that nature as it is. We need to know this because we have to really identify what a good view is. Having a good view is like the basis, and then on top of that basis, then if we do good meditation, then we will be able to achieve the result. So we need to have this good view, and a view that is unmistaken without that. But we need to make sure also that we don't make the mistakes that we could make, that we don't fall into the pitfalls that we could fall into. So then after that is the discussion about how the various assertions are not contradictory, how they're not... so above, when we talked about when it had such lines as "I've lost," they sit there, or they just keep losing this old mother, or I just wonder what it is that their fingers point to. This is sort of saying, this is pointing out the areas where they're differences. It's pointing out the areas where it's not okay. But here it's saying that actually there are not big differences between the two. The two are very compatible.
Tene tatela tanda tene chire mahi bi losup mugu tena deni nam jijin se je tene chitang tanda tena deni te nintu shiro da nawata do de pa namba ni botela losup gugu mares losup mugu be junsin de losup ne ta je nganzu ge tumta ta mantin ba tene nganzu ge tumta la jenji che pandago ta tinde chong gwa ge losup mugu so losup mugu te ta te tanda shiro da nawa ai la shiro da nawa ton do de ba yin na yong rong shiro da nawa ton do de ba mai na yong rong te tang aran so nyamlin sinkin yin na yong ra tu som sinkin yin na yong ra tena de ni de ta shiro da nawa ton do de ba tin so pe tawa du gon ra bo tawa ngem ban ra bo ti ta nyam so long na tene ta che khorwa le tar ma tu ba tar ba tong tam chin chin pe kompon top ma tu pe lam je sinchi lo ban ra bo ji injire som pe lo chu gu ma re kariri se na chirende nintu shiro da nawa ton do de ba nam je tene dulchin chami le trupa hyalji yigi yore la te hyalji yiba yendo tene umapi te he yogi yore bisi ne he yogi yo mare tene te rangin me ba tena bhagu yore te ngo rangin ji kunzu tenri je nungwa te rangin ki matu pa je tena bhagu yore mato tene chirente ka yogi yo mare la chirur je tente he yogi yo mare chirur je tente ngarang solo nunga yore la nunga te jetardo nunga re se na dutrin tuman dubi kombu je ngarang solo nunga yore te nunga la tene ta uma pe tawa tena mba pe kausa la yung tene te la kirto uma pa la namba som yore la
So the manner in which the various assertions are not contradictory begins about 2/3 of the way down page 9 of your booklet. Without destroying outer objects, you do not need to be upset. You two parties who propound real objects, just be joyful. And so generally when the two schools that propound, the two parties or the two schools who propound or who assert that there are real external objects are the Sutra school and the Great Exposition school, the Vaibhashika and the Sautrantika schools. And those people in those schools don't need to get upset. And the reason they don't need to get upset is that they're not really criticism. It's not like we're saying that they're completely terrible schools that we're criticizing. So it may sound like we're saying that there are parts that are not good, but there's no need to be upset because whether you are a member, a proponent of the Great Exposition or the Sutra school, or whether you're someone who practices the Dharma or not, it's not like we are saying these two schools are terrible. They're horrible schools. And if you practice them, there's no way that you're ever going to be able to free yourself from samsara. If you practice them, there's no way that you're ever going to be able to attain the results of omniscience and Buddhahood. That's not what we're saying. We're not saying that they are a wrong path. And so for that reason, they don't need to be upset. So you two parties who propound real objects, it says. So the Great Exposition or Vaibhashika and the Sutra schools both say that all the external objects we see are made up of atoms. They're made up of small indivisible atoms. And the reason that they don't need to be upset is that in the Middle Way school we don't destroy these atoms. When in the Middle Way school, we don't destroy the atoms because the atoms naturally don't have any real existence. It's not like we're trying to destroy the the interdependent appearances of the interdependent relative appearances. We don't try to block the relative interdependence. We don't try to destroy the relative interdependence. Instead, external objects appear. And when external objects appear to us, the way that they appear to us is that it's as if they're made up of atoms and small particles. And so there's no need to be upset about this. It's not that we're destroying the articles. And so they appear as if we're destroying these. So when we come to understand and comprehend the middle way view, there are three different middle way views that we establish.
Tene tati somte tangbo tate cerdo umayina chutanji doni de haji hibati taje do jikpare. Tene ina ya kuzuk noate haji hisul de mandawa yorela. Te yabate jiti trade jebe umapa si jek. Tene dode jebe umapa si ni. Nanjur jebe umapa si som yorela. Tini tige tati chutanji doni imbala doni to khalji tantambala doni imbala khalji kipare te kunzup je noanda kandisi kharge yor tini kunzup je noanda kharju tela tini tanda dulting nambala kharge yore yana no senji nambala kharge yore tati ni tombochi du tela tene tati la no da kunzog no anda dode patarto chara tatena deni ga lo dardo dulching nambala charwa chaji gi pe lo jeda tene nang semje nambala charwa nanjurje pe oma pate no atanji senhong kunzog no atanji senhong nambala char no atanji senhong nambala chagi yore de yena ya te sensam patabo maimba ta tambala tomba ne yemba chaji gi patela nanjurje pe oma pase no atanji dulching nambala chagi yore de yena ya te tanda ta tambala tomba ne re de yena kunzog charsul te ta tende re se tene tela yam jitin rati jepe oma paton tene tanda dode jepe oma pa ni dode patabu je yina tene semje no wala charton de la ta tombo chiru dul dul pati ge tene jo chomse ne tene tanti no anda tene dulchin le trupingo bode takar to mai ba tene ta tanda pona ne patige di nambala sen number hipatis di nambala charne tomate dodi petaware la te dodi jepo ma pasi tene tanda nintu shero de nawa tonji ji de tabo tene semji no la chargi pa sunga mai ba dulchin jingu bole trupu bode tekara don tene ombo ton nonge hibala tonala chargi ji yore te tarto chargi ji ba tinji tin thodi jebe oma pa si chargi ji yore la jitin thodi jebe oma pa dodi jebe oma pa tene nanjur jebe oma pa som tige tanto chutanji doni imbala chargi ji bala tikpare la tene junsin teacher na tena deni gomba ta tikpala umtawate ta tendam toni de ten la pana kunzo tendrje no te khonamba gomba tardo yo nang yore la tene teacher na gomba che ta tel nengonda bo chido yo mare la teacher na tena deni nam jeji je so
Jitam tate to chipete kaso de kaso chida mawana shin de ne kelen yoro laso
de you na so
laso. So these of these three schools, they are all the same in saying being the middle way schools and in saying that all phenomena are empties. They're all the same in this way, but they have different ways of explaining how the relative appearances form. And so these three schools are the middle way school that of the worldly consensus, the middle way school of the how shall I say this nicely? The middle way school that explains the relative according to the Sutra school, and then the Yogacarya middle way school. So these three are the middle way school of worldly consensus, the middle way school that follows the Sutra school for relative appearance, and the middle way school of the Yogacarya. And so they're all the same. They all say that all phenomena are emptiness. They assert that ultimately all phenomena are emptiness. But how is it that relative appearances occur? How is it that they happen? Are they just, is it because of there being atoms out there, or all external appearances just perceptions of the mind? And so this is how we distinguish these different schools. And so in terms of the relative appearances, if you explain it according to the Sutra school, then you'd say that there are all these external objects outside. And they're the atoms, and because of the atoms, then we have the perceptions, and that is the Sutra school middle way, or the middle way according to the Sutra that follows the Sutra school. And then there is also, you can say that all appearances are just perceptions of the mind. And so that is the position of the Yogacarya school. And so basically they're saying that all relative appearances are appearances that we see in the mind. But this is not the same as the mind-only school, because the mind-only school says that the mind really exists, whereas this school says that ultimately all phenomena are emptiness, including the mind. And so all external appearances are just the mind. Now, when we talk about things as appearing because of real existing external atoms, then if there are atoms out there, then they are ultimately empty. But when they appear, the ways that the two different schools, the middle way of the common worldly consensus, or the common consensus, and the middle way that explains the relative according to the Sutra school, have two different presentations of this. And this is because the Sutra school and the Great Exposition school have different presentations about how we perceive things. According to the Sutra school, when we see an external object, there is something out there. There is an external object out there, but we don't actually see that object or the atoms of that object. Rather, that functions like the basis or the cause for which we have an image that appears in our mind. An image, or it's also called an aspect in technical language. There is an aspect or image that appears in our mind. And so that image is our mind. So what we are aware of is actually the image that is in our mind. And so that is how the Sutra school explains it. And the middle way school that follows the Sutra school also explains relative appearances in the same way. Now, the Great Exposition, that is the Vaibhashika school, the Great Exposition says that it's different than that. There's no, image or anything like that between the mind. It's just, they say that there are the atoms, and that somehow the faculties and the consciousness make direct contact with the atoms, and so they perceive the atoms or the outside forms directly. And so the middle way school that pretty much follows that assertion is the middle way school that explains the relative according to the common worldly consensus. And so this way we have the three different schools: the middle way that explains the relative according to the common worldly consensus, the middle way that explains them according to the Sutra school, and the middle way that explains them according to the Yogacarya or mind-only school. They're all the same in saying that ultimately all phenomena are emptiness. They're just, and so in this way, when we have the two schools here, you two parties who propound real objects, these are the Great Exposition and the Sutra schools. Although everything is empty, relatively, in terms of how things appear relatively, they appear as these two schools propound, in terms of there being atoms out there. And so there's no problem with that. There's no contradiction here. And so you all should just be joyful.
대전도 다 니바 센선부터 와야 다 센선부터 와도 엄마밖에 공부하니 갈아매봐 대템바래라 다 공도 순두텔라 tanda nzamba lemi jitu nyamba rabota tindi song yuare senson petawa tela song yuare te yinaya te sen dembar trupar zaina te sen dembar trupar zaini ngupu zeji nambalan zaina tige chuni jedemba te tatugi yo mare tontugi yo mare mare te yinaya senson petawa tong uma petawa ningalgi yuare besi nangalgi yo mare Mangalwadi tanda kondu yuba yendo tanda nanjurjibu omapa sidu tene tanda omapi tawa tenla papa kasala tandam tu chutong jitong bani re kunzo tu tenri jinong hyar ge yore kunzo tu tenri jinong hyar singkinte tagasi hyar ge yore besina hyar ge yore nongwa tangji senji nongwa la hyar ge yore nongwa tangji senji nongwa la hyarwati hipcha tang jeba te kana yore sena tene sensong patawe nongdo yore la sensong patar to hyar ji hi go ge yore la sensong patar to hyar ji hi na nongwa tangji sen nong yinba tang tene nongwa tangji sen nong yin na yang te ten tang bala madrupe tongni yinba te nanjur jebe oma pe gomba yinba chirna ta te la rongri dembar truba mayin chong rangri senkin cheke ngune demba tene che tazi ki yul yung rang yinba tene rinkin te yung rang yinba che gugi yuwa se na tene te ripi tugu yuwa mare te ripi madrup na yang tseme yalwa te tene ta ten nongwa tong chi senji nongwa tsam yinba la tseme yalwa te tepe te menti pa kanya yuwa mare junsen te la tene nomrik nawa ka ji nze je se nomrik nawa te sensang pa tang tene ta tongni to kyal ji ki ba uma pa ni gombang galgi yuwa re se na gombang galgi yuwa mare te tabo tuk jiba zene tene te gombang galme to ta chogi yuwa re zoni.
Then there are the views of the middle way, and how the middle way views are not, how the views of the mind only and the middle way views are not contradictory at all. Now, above, Chankya Rolpe Dorje did say of the mind only schools that it was sort of like a brainless, crazy monkey. But that's only if you cling to the mind as being truly existent, as being really there. If you say that it is a thing that has substantial existence, then that prevents you from seeing the Dharma nature as it is. But are the mind-only school and the middle way schools actually contradictory? They are not. There's no real contradiction before them, and this is as shown by the Yogacarya middle way school that explains relative according to the mind only. So when we come to really comprehend the middle way view, of course, in their presentation, of course, all phenomena are ultimately emptiness, but there are the appearances of relative interdependence. And when when relative interdependence occurs and happens, is it just like it seems? It's not. They're all actually just appearances of our mind or perceptions of our mind. And so if you want to look at this in great detail, it is as explained by the view of the mind-only school. And so you can explain it according to this mind-only school and say that all appearances are just the mind, they're just mental perceptions. But then if you continue to say that then those appearances are not ultimately existing, they are ultimately empty, then that is the presentation of the Yogacarya or the middle way school. And so here, as it says, there is no self-awareness, but valid cognition's evaluation is still justified. So all you Vijñaptivadins, just be joyful. And so there's no self-awareness. Means there's no self-awareness, the self-knowing that's said to be truly existent, a real thing, substantial thing that sees and knows and that really exists and really is there. There's nothing like that. Do we need any sort of truly existing being who knows? We don't really need that. In fact, we cannot prove that it exists logically. So here, but saying that, it does not contradict the fact that the appearances appear to the mind and that they are just appearances of the mind. That is still justified. Valid cognition's evaluation is still justified. So the mind can still validly observe and evaluate things. There's no contradiction there. So all you Vijñaptivadins, that is, those who assert that everything is just consciousness, so all you Vijñaptivadins, just be joyful. So the middle way and the mind-only views, they do not contradict any way, another way. You're allowed to see things, present things in that way. You're allowed to see that there's no contradiction in their views.
Tene ta tanda sumbati tanda umarongjiba ta tela Crestone kembo sungi yorela umarongjibe tene toni to tena phagi yore ta tanda jepa meje doji kamapa meje doji ki yundel tamji ke na karisong yore sin pa toni ki menin king pa yo mare chuton je tombanye te chalji ki gre la tene ta tela chepra kare yore sin kunzup te no ande kharchula chepra yore zamne tembarela la ta chitang ngaransu namba sanji pe tenchu tamji ke nanda soma pa ni yore la ronji pa ta tanjurwa ni rela ranji pa te ta tanda Crestone kembo kasing arang ki shubare ten namji zompe tenchu ke nanda ronji pe tawaran ten la paware tene tanjurwa yinna tene tanda padin dawa tapa zor sepa cheke tangbo padin dawa tapa ke tal lopen tapa tela sanji chong senki tike tanjurwa sol tsene tene tanjurwa sol ti jebar senki te padin dawa tapa rela tene ta tike dawa tapa ke saune tanjurwa sol tsiware Tati ronji pa ton tanjurwa nila chepar kare yuware se na ranji pa ke tanda kunzup to trup tendam to madrup kunzup ke nuwanda kandi si khar ke yuware se na kunzup zon to trup re te ona toni kandi re se na ten tambala tomba ni re se ne kunzup tseme trupa ton tendam to madrup pa tene tatanda jinga non go ngone ozo undine yonda tana tikwa tang se tan tampala to yo mare singena teni tate tanda Thrangu Rinpoche ge tenla papa kapsala teni tanda khori ge ta chitang jaga ge pente ta nam chi chompe tenchu na sen sur chom yung ge yore te hina ya salwa je par se tu namdrom pe tandam to namdrom main pe tandam ni sung ge yore la tene ronji pe tandam te kandi tenla phabe yore se na zo namdrom pe tandam tenla phabe yore tene tanjurwe toni te kandi tenla phabe yore se na namdrom main pe tandam te tenla phabe yore re songrela namdrom main pe tandam se tu namdrom se tu te kunzup to ye de pa tandam to me de pa na buje ti namdrom lo buje yimbe cherna kunzup to ye tandam to me tene ta ti namdrom main pe tandam se tu tene ta ti kunzup to yin na yorong tandam to yin na yorong chu tang chi rangin tombani re te tombani yen jindola no ade char to yor kunzup se gu yo mare tandam se gu yo mare kunzup tender ge no ade char to yor la tandam to ni ngo te no jindola ngo rangin chi tombate yon to yor re zon ta te ye par salvar tembate la tanjurwe gombare la tene ta te la ronji pe gomba la tene ta te rimba yindal tanda jay sena tombo sensam pe tawa si tene ronji pe tawa si tene tanjurwe tawa si na to lawanda wa yungi yore la nishi che wa yungi yore tene junsin teacher na ronji pe ronsen ki drup gu re ronsen ma drup na tene kunzup to yung mepe ngumi tongba chongchi nda bolon ro re go tene legend le kurwa ta panda bota chutam chi le kurwa ta panda bon ro re go ta yo re ti na ti go ge yo mare ronsen ji drup me na yo ngo ronsin ji tongba tender je no ati tanda shar chogi yo re la junsin teacher na shar sam kembo ke ji ji je oma ronji be tuntan zen ken tenzo la tene gakwa nda bota chen chen nda bo kanya yo mare tene te ni galwa yo mare sonne yo insar.
And so the third school that we'll talk about is the autonomist school. And so this is what was described as the three Eastern Kempos, or the Panditas of the Eastern tradition. And so when we come to establish the autonomist view of the Middle Way school, the autonomist Middle Way school, when we establish that, then it is, as the 8th Karmapa Mikyo Dorje said in his treatise on the Middle Way, that there is no difference in terms of understanding emptiness. And in terms of the ultimate understanding of emptiness, there is no difference. But where the difference between Middle Way schools comes is in terms of how the appearances of relative appearances occur. That is where the differences occur. So generally, when we talk about the treatises of the Middle Way, there are two different schools of the Middle Way. There is the autonomist school, or you could say in Sanskrit the Svatantika, the autonomist school, and then you have the consequentialist school, or Prasangika in Sanskrit. And so the autonomist school, these are the three Eastern Kempos, the Panditas of the Eastern tradition. And in their and so they wrote many, these three Eastern Kempos wrote the main treatises of the autonomist view. Now, the Prasangika view, or the consequentialist view, is primarily propounded first by Chandrakirti. Now, Chandrakirti did first study this with his master Buddhapalita, but in terms of composing the treatise and treating it in a most extensive fashion, it's really Chandrakirti who established this consequentialist Prasangika view. Now, what is the difference between these consequentialists and the autonomists? Well, the difference is that the autonomist school says that relatively things can be established. They exist relatively. Ultimately, they don't exist. They can't be established. So relatively, what are they like? Well, they exist. They can be validly observed. They are established. But ultimately, what are they like? They're empty. Ultimately, they are empty, but on a relatively terms, you can say that things can be validly established. You can validly say that things exist. And so this is actually something that it says in the beginning of the ornament of the Middle Way by Shantirakshita, one of the three Eastern Kempos. Shantirakshita in the ornament of the Middle Way says that although things do not ultimately appear, they can be established ultimately. They can be established in relative terms. And so then Mipam Rinpoche, when he explained this in his commentary on the ornament of the Middle Way, used a term that appears, used some terms that appear from here to in a few places in earlier treatises in the Indian and Tibetan tradition, but he made use of these terms called the categorized ultimate and the uncategorized ultimate. And so when the autonomist school presents emptiness, how is it that they present it? They present emptiness as the categorized ultimate, whereas the consequentialist school presents it as the uncategorized ultimate. Now, what do we mean when we say categorized and uncategorized? Well, when we say categorized, that's like we're making categories that relatively things exist and ultimately things do not exist. So relatively they exist, ultimately they don't. They're the two categories of relative existence, ultimately not existing. And then the uncategorized emptiness is saying, whether you're thinking about the relative, whether you're thinking about the ultimate, all phenomena are just empty. It's just everything, no matter what you say about them, they're all just empty, whether relative or ultimate. So that is the uncategorized emptiness. And so in terms of how things appear relatively, in the consequentialist school, when they appear, they just appear. They appear out of the relative interdependence, and at the same time as they appear, they're empty. So there's no contradiction between the two of these, and this is the consequentialist prasangika view of this. Now, in the autonomous presentation of this, it's, you're saying that relatively things exist, ultimately they don't exist. And so for that reason, it's sometimes easy to gain certainty if you first really study the mind-only and establish the mind-only view, and then you come to understand and comprehend the autonomous view, and then you come to understand the consequentialist view. That is an easy way to develop real certainty in all of these. And so here, here it says, in talking about the autonomous school, the autonomous school says that things have to be established, that they have their own specific characteristics. That means that they have a true existence, that their characteristics really are there and can be established. But here it reads, not established through specific characteristics, dependent origination still vividly blooms. So all you panditas of the Eastern tradition, just be joyful. So the autonomous school says, well, if specific characteristics aren't established, then it'd be like there's nothingness there. It'd be just emptiness, and that's not how it is. Everything, and if you do that, then there's the danger that you'll deny that there's karma, cause, and effect. You'll deny the relative truth. And so in order not to have that danger of denying these, they say that things really exist. They exist by their specific, they have their own characteristics that are really there. But here it says that not established through specific characteristics. Actually, those characteristics in their essence cannot be established naturally. They're just the appearances of interdependence. And these appearances of interdependence still work. They may appear to be made or established by their specific characteristics, but ultimately they're empty. So there's no contradiction between the views. So you three Eastern Khenpos, or you panditas of the Eastern tradition, just be joyful.
Tene tate tardo tanda kamdar ta tanda tenju tamji ge namdo sumbe tumta te tembranze barela te nguni nanga nyamlin la jarna yo pe yapo yorela nanga nyamlin la jarna yore tini te tanda shoshin ge tri ta tanda goba onchu dojinse pe shoshin ge tri tene ngire janchu ge nala cerdo ta seng netang la ta chul te la nomba som sonarela tene zo netu ne tawa se du ta sem te hine jengang la ne pe kapsala te ngone te ne sem jerang yin ti sem jerang yin no sem je ne lu de tawa yin to pe tap je te 다티 니바데 조소 네타와 생긴데 드니센라 갑깔라 네그레 갑깔라 네그마레 민네바 농도 운주 갑슬라요 농도 운주 아티 히로 네게요 마레 농도 운주나요 농도 운주랑 힌데 ngotom바다 랑힌 살와인 베처나 조소 네타와 생긴데 송요와레라 다티 디니 다치탄게 두점 처징이라 장수는 디니데 두점 송요 다 조어데 간데 성요 말에서는 농토네 따와티 성요 말라 농토네 따와텔라 티니치 나와티 당가란서 메이 나와나치 루 옹봉가 열도 저베 주다 테러리잘라 소바티 치 옹봉가 치단 율가 나텔라 샤르기요 말라 티 샤르와티 데타르도 데니 티니 티 샤르와티 간디리세나 티니 나와 셈세 디 노아데 치룰도 요마레 난센제 도니데 샤르기 요레 딩무니 gomne tena tene te chiroji noa je hyarge yore te nang senji noa la hyarge yore mato senji noa le los churba je misal ke hyaya mebanda boje hyarya yomare la tate ngarang chilo la yojire ngarang noa le los churba je chilo la yojire sambare mato tendo ngarang noa te le chilo los churba ke noa je yomare la teacher na noa sem ta tongbo chitang che noa da tang chi sen balaki che noa da tang chi sen balaki na tini nipa de kan gong kare se na sem tomba si ta ti non king ke sen korang ngo la te na rang yin ke ma de tomba ni imba de tini tomba ni imba la gomne noa sem tomba lundu se du sen ji ngo de no chi no ato nong sen nipo de ranking ki tomba rebese na tomba che yo madrupa ji re te yinaya ti no ate chardu de la tene no namba na chopa ranking lundu tu char chogo yo are tomba sen tomba lundu no sem tomba lundu tu ngote pa se ta tende yo are la te tabo rimbi ke zaina tini tige tanda chirul ke tena deni ke tawata tegendo sensompe tawata tini tegendo umapa ta talran tanjiro wado ronji ba gomba tenzo te ripi ten la pape ke jipa ke nihi ke tento gomna tini tepe pingenzal na pento chimbo ta tini tembo ta tini tel nihi ndrongwan rabo ta tindi yo re samare.
And so here, this is teaching about the presentations of the various philosophical schools made in the treatises. And if we join this with our own practice, it is extremely helpful. In the instructions on Mahamudra, written by the 9th Karmapa, Wangchuk Dorje, called The Ocean of Certainty, he teaches how to look at the way the mind is, the way the mind operates. And he teaches 3 ways to look at this. The first way is looking at the mind in stillness. And so this is resting in shamatha meditation and then looking to see what is the nature of the mind, what is the way the mind is, and then it's a way to realize it as it is. And then the second way is looking at the mind in movement. So sometimes we're able to rest and be calm in shamatha, and sometimes we aren't. And sometimes there are a lot of thoughts that move and that happen. But when that happens, it's not a problem, because we look at the essence of those thoughts. We can see that their essence is empty, yet they are naturally clear. And so we look at the mind as it's moving. We look at the thoughts in the moving. That is looking at the mind in movement. And so in the ocean of certainty, these 2 sections are taught very concisely, very briefly. And so what is the main thing that Wangchuk Dorje teaches? He teaches about looking at the mind and appearances. And so how is it that the mind perceives external appearances? And so when we look and we see appearances of outside things, we have the 5 faculties of the eye, ear, nose, mouth, and eye, ear, nose, tongue, and body. And then there are the 5 objects that they perceive: form, sound, sense, tastes, and touch. And so these 2, the external objects and the faculties seem to appear, and they are there. And when we look at them, what Wangchuk Dorje says we should do is we should first recognize that appearances are mind. So appearances are mind. Appearances aren't outside of ourselves. Really, actually, they're just inherently the internal mind. And so when we look at it in our meditation, when we're meditating and look at it, then then there are appearances of outside things. They do occur, but they're just the perceptions of the mind. They're just appearances in the mind. There's nothing that we can actually find outside of the perceptions that we have. Other than our perceptions, there's nothing outside of them. So we think to ourselves, oh, there are external things there. They've got to be there. They must be there. We think that that's how they are, but actually they're not separate from our own, the appearances that happen in our mind. There's nothing outside of our mental perceptions or outside of the appearances in our mind. And so we need to realize that appearances are mind. And so all external appearances are mind. Then what's the second thing we need to recognize? We need to recognize that the mind is empty. And so all appearances are mind, and then when we look at the essence, at the nature of that mind, it is emptiness that that by its nature cannot be established as anything. It is just emptiness. So we recognize appearance as mind and mind as emptiness. And then we recognize emptiness as that spontaneous presence. So when we have all we have the external appearances, we have the internal appearing mind, and they're all naturally empty. Does this mean that they're just nothingness and voidness? It doesn't. They can actually still appear as anything at all. So all the appearances can still occur, and so that is the spontaneous presence. So the appearances, the spontaneous presence of appearances occur. So we recognize that appearances are mind, mind is empty, and emptiness is spontaneously present. And we gradually go through all of these things. And so in this way we see that the views of the two schools who assert that they're truly existing external objects, the views of the middle way school, of the mind-only school, and the views of the autonomist and consequentialist middle way schools, all of these are very helpful. We can use these views, we can develop real certainty in them through inference. And then when we have that certainty and conviction from inference and we meditate upon them, then it is really beneficial for our meditation. Our meditation becomes very stable, and it becomes something that can really elicit a lot of conviction and certainty.
Tene ta tela ta tanda jancha Rolpe Dorje te chom je ma to song yo ma re de yin na ya ta kha sing homa hyu ba tanda mo hong ge song ge na la tene me go na o ma ba da tong ni ta ba na o ma ba da tene de ning en yin jing ge o ma ba som song yo re la tene te ya tanda zo de me go na o ma ba de o ma rong tong ba ge ta wa ta tong ni khona chal do ten ni song de tene ta tanda toni tapar nawa singhe te toni te mepa ma impa toni te takwa impa nawa ta te toni te yepa je impa ta toni te takwa la song chogu yo re la ngupo takwa ina ngupo takwa ndig ma re ngupo nduji ji ngupo ina ngirwa tan tempa re te ina yang toni impa chena toni tapar nawa je yaldi ina yang ndig yo re la tene tanda dening en hin jin sung de la ta ti ge toni cham ma yin ba de hi bi nin bo yi hi jin na ba la yu ba de ta te ta ba yin ba la sung re la ta te toni ta na ta dening en hin jin sing ke te tene yin chu ji yin dong de hyal ji ge ba ta tene salwa yi hi jin na ba hyal ji ge ba la yin dong de hyal ji ge ba te ta te ni ge tene te ni ge gomba te ya uma patan gal ki yo mare uma patan gal me pati junsen kare re se na chu tom chi ngo rang yin ki tomba yin gu ge re se na uma yin tom pe jun te hyal ji gi gu re yi hi yin na yon rong toni yin na yon rong te de ne ma du be chewa me ba hyal ji gi gu ge yo re chewa me ba hyal ji gi gu ge yo re te yin na yon te che ti toni te bamboo ge namban da bo ta che ya yen tin jong de marung namban da bo ma yin ba yen tin tam ji yes ru nam kin chu din ji tong ba ne se che ya char du ru yin ba tene ti ge uma yen tong pe kun zo ten ri ji chu de ta ba yin ba ta den bar tu ba yin ba ke leng ge yo ra be se na ke leng ge yo ma re te den dam toni je ngo ta salwa yi hi ji cha ni de ta tene me pasne ta ti tsani yo mare se ti tsani tup nyo mare se ne khal ji gi grebe se ne gi yo mare la teacher na ta ti kap ter uma yen ton ba la ton ni ton na ta deni ngen yin kin ji ji zhe ji se ta ti zoba chen bo ta man tin ba ke do yo mare so re la tene kap ndar ta ta da ti ta wala che par som te sa por som yo mare.
So this is as much as is presented in Chankya Rolpe Dorje's song. But the other day we did discuss about discuss this further as presented in Mipam Rinpoche's song of the Dzogchen view, where he presented that there are those who present the emptiness, who assert that it's all a no negation or a denial of existence. He presented that it is those who, or the views of those who assert that emptiness is permanent, and the views of those who are fixated upon the two truths. And so here, when we talk about those who assert that emptiness is a no negation, they say these are primarily the Rangtompas, the self-empty school, who say that everything is just empty. It's just nothing. There is nothing, nothing there. So that is the Rangtompa school. And now the school that asserts that emptiness is permanent, those who assert that emptiness is permanent, they say that that emptiness is not nothing. There's something there that's true there. There's something there, and it's permanent. Now, when you talk about emptiness, it's fine to say that it's permanent. But if you say that it is some sort of a thing, that's not okay. If you say it's a thing, that would mean it's something that is composite, conditioned, that is impermanent. And so that is not what it's like. But if you just merely say that emptiness is permanent, there is no great problem with that. Then there are those who's the middle way school who cling to, who have fixation on the two truths, and so these are people who say, well, the ultimate nature is not just emptiness. There is Buddha nature, and that Buddha nature is permanent. It's a thing. Now, in this way, if we have the two Shentong schools, we have the school that talks about emptiness as being permanent, and the school that clings to the two truths. And so the one is emphasizing the expanse, the other is emphasizing the clear wisdom part. And so both of these are professing the Shentong, other empty schools. And these two schools are good schools. They're important schools to have, and they do not contradict the middle way school in any reason at all. And what is the reason for that? The reason is that they say that all phenomena are emptiness, whether you are Rangyupa or whether you're a Rangtompa or a Shentompa. That's how they say everything is empty. Whether you're talking about the wisdom or about the emptiness, it is something that from the very beginning has been unborn, is unconditioned, and is emptiness. But it's not something that's material. It's not a material, inanimate emptiness. It's just blank voidness, nothing at all. Rather, it is the emptiness that is endowed with all the potential. It is able to appear or the emptiness that's endowed with supreme potential. It is able to appear as anything. And so, with these Shentong schools, do they say that the relative interdependence is permanent, is existing, it's a thing? They don't. They say that it's emptiness. They say ultimately it's emptiness, but that emptiness is not just nothingness at all. And so, in this way, we have the two other empty schools. They say that everything is the schools that present the emptiness as permanent, and those that fixate on the two truths. And so these are discussed in the Song of the Dzogchen view we discussed last week. And their views are not at all contradictory of the middle way school. So they should be delighted too. So here in discussing the middle way view, actually, here Chankya Rolpe Dorje in discussing the middle way view does not make the distinction between these three types of middle way views.
Tene tatige 단다 자가르도 타르게 둔타게 મં갈베 쏠때 휴바렐라 되니 드링 치두 준데 대점 휴나 되니 산이 나란서 제된라 꼬로백 베게를 프로그램 즈바렐라 되니 대게 존세다 구반다고 대지 휴나 제대지 토라 팽게레 손데도 만남 야보 나나 되니 텔라테네 대 띵인생 펠와다 냠도반 펠와다 대바도 무근 펠와라 팽그레 선반다고지 정소마 니테야 지당게 제딩생이데 당가란서게 세나 고송 툭지땡 쇼기와라라 되니 상제동 정주선바탐지제 꾸이 넘바데 롱올라 샤르게 셔들라 되니 군라 꾸이땡 상지 좀 된데지 꾸이땡 되니 대견도 롱제 좁고 꾸이땡 되니 대견도 단다 되니 성주 선반놈 제거에 땡 되니 이람제 하초놈 제거에 땡 다데 랑게 대파도 무기지니 소와타베게 열도 저바이 베잖나 되니 될 거에 땡 되니 성그 땡 생게데 다 상지 당 장주 선바 당 되니 케바당 두토던지게 성데 당가란솔라 동화데 차 상화제 가든 나요바 혈sem라보지 요요바데 간데레세나 드니 수납 이기리스티 바임베레라 데 데타볼라 다까방하문다지나 데네 간주르다 땡주르세 당보 자가르게 끼라예바 드니 데베기도 주르와 다 딘데게 성구땡 드니 다티 팅상 나란서 깔바상보존이 인지기도 주르와 덴조야 다 성구땡 제버던 바바임베잖아 데라 데바도 무비지 소로와도 만남다 다 들어가시 효뇽라고 많이 발라 성무당니 소로와도 만남자 드니 델 데바도 구바지 잘 드니 델 랍종세 데냥네 나나 베 상제도 조주세 바담지 성구땡이라 드니 톡지땡세도 톡데 다지당그 톡데 단다 무보 즈 제스마도 바지레 즈지 제스마도 바인도 텔텔 코이 쿠숨그 땡난 힌제 조야 요르베세네 요 마레데 다딘 천지 좀도 드는 제팅게 넘발라 조 남게 요라라 디처나 다 톡지땡 드니 상제동 송주 선바탐지 톡지땡 임베처나 드니 콩 틀리데 som지메 잡아 다베나 나란소 데네 담베 추생게데 추히네 데네 로마종 다든데지네 추벨 추펠 추라 데네 센 펜투 종 다든데 용국이 요아레 이나얀 체딩 라보지 이나랑힌 게 인데 가르레세도 다제 상제동 송주 선반남지 땡지레 세두티니 텔랑힌 게 대바도 뭐 제 텔라테네 다추라 대바 멘킨 카기 랑힌 게 추라 대바 jenkin라보다 데네 추라 대바 jenkin 당지라야 때지 데네 대바도 무구도 전주도 체른로라소바다 데네 꿀만다고 데네 용기요라라 데네 디처나 제팅 잘와데 베 야포레.
So this is covering how the four schools from India, the four philosophical schools from India are not contradictory, and that is enough on that for today. Now, after this, our program for tomorrow afternoon is to go to the stupa and to recite some prayers and aspirations there. And I thought that if I explained to you a little bit about the reasons why we're doing this and the benefits of doing this, then it would help you in do this. You know, when we go to a place like the stupa, we make prayers and aspirations, we make supplications. This is something that helps us increase our samadhi meditation, increase our experiences and realization. It helps us increase our faith and devotion. That's how it seems to me. So when we talk about a stupa, well, when you talk about stupas, we have to remember there are what we call supports for the Buddha's body, speech, and mind. And so when we have something that makes us, when we need something that is going to make us remember what the bodies of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas is like, then we have statues. And so these are like the supports of the body of the Buddha. They can be supports of the Sambhogakaya enjoyment body form, the supports of a bodhisattva, a statue of a bodhisattva, or of a yidam deity, or whatever. But when we have a statue like this becomes something to which we can pray, feel faith and devotion, and make supplications. So those are supports of the body of the Buddha. Then there are the supports of the speech of the Buddha. And so these are the words, the things that all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, great scholars, and great masters have said. All of their instructions. And these instructions that are also very kind to us. And so how is it how is it that they are? Well, right now they are like the letters written in books. And so these letters written in books are the support of the speech of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. In old days, we had the conjured and the tenjured, the translated words and the translated treatises that were first in the Indian languages and then were translated into Tibetan. And so that's what the support of speech used to be. But nowadays, thanks to the kindness of those translators, we now have many texts that have been translated into English, and these are also the supports of the speech of the Buddha. They're also something that we can have faith and devotion and something that we can supplicate in. It's not like they're just any ordinary thing. It's not like just pieces of paper that's sitting there. They're things that we should supplicate, things we should have faith and devotion in. We should look at them. We should study them. We should practice them. And then they can really be helpful. So these are the supports of the speech of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. Then there are the supports of the mind. But the mind is not something that actually has any physical form. It doesn't have any substantial physical aspect to it. And so it's not like we can have a support the same way we can have the same way of a body, the supports of the body or the same speech. It doesn't work in the same way. Instead we have a symbol of the mind, and that symbol is the stupa. And so that stupa becomes the support of the mind of the Buddhas, of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. And they can actually have really amazing, inconceivable activity. Generally, when we think about the Dharma, it's by teaching the Dharma that we can study the Dharma, preserve the Dharma, and spread the Dharma, and very helpful for that. But the stupas here are, when we know that, this is the support of the mind of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, then naturally we begin to feel faith. We begin to feel devotion for them. And then because of that, we start to feel devotion and faith in the Dharma. That just naturally occurs. And so for those in whom that occurs, then that really helps their faith and devotion and diligence. It encourages all of these to increase. And so this is why going to stupas and making prayers is so helpful.
Nangpa sarva tindekil songyong na tene tate sanji jom tinde chikola shon sarga yore te ina te sanji jom tinde mare te sa yana sala zupa yana chala zupa yana je ngupo je la zuja pare te la shon sarna kupa mare be se tinde songyong te ina ya te tene chitang sa yinpa mahi Joinba Mahini Shon Sargio Marella. Una Shon Candid in Sargio resin, Jo Palbata, Sapalba Mandawa, Tiniti Chitang, the Sanjig in Zepata, Sanjig Yentinta, Sanjig Trinita, Sanjig Garden, the Jesus train to Nuba. Tatil Tepachi, Mugina, Tiji Sutin, Tiji Sutempa Latini, Tini Nang, San Yentin to Nuba Yorela, teacher Son Salgi Yore, Chepa Pulgi Yore, Tiniti Cora Javi Yorela, Tintan Chetin in a Tetardo Rela, Tinani, Tantan Chetin the Pe Calcio. Tatanda Nuchula Sanji Tempa Taru Capsula, Sukarin Chevaresena, Tinizo Tangpoti, Jankamapa, continue to do Baronzo Ripedoji, Pecatin Chiporella. Kandiri sena tombo konga, tini tati sanji jitemba tarwege, tinchin rabo ti zaini, tini chujam chumba rinpoche tang, tini chabji kala rinpoche la soba tang, tini teji so, tini jamu kama bayan hyabji cha, tini hyabji cha ni, hyabji cha pa zonda yung mazi ta tanda, sanin dana la hyabji cha ni, pe, Tin so melam ja tuji do melam na ta tinde je na wala tene ta tanda ngaran so chu hinking ki chu he ju ya ba chu nyen king ki chu nyen ju ya ba nyomlin sinking ki nyomlin se ju ya ba te ta ka din chimbo tine sapo chungwa re la tine te chungwa la tene ta tan jongga kontro kuntin sumba ke tanda tine ta thuk saban ra bo tin che tin ji yin na so ne Hyaguna, Tela Tenin Chetin Yang, Tatanda to Hijungo, the Yuipa into Tenjal, Tela Sova Melanta, Tenin Chepapul, Tatin de Siena, Pe, Selam Juju Yapajeta, Tenite Sanla Penju Yapatatin de Jire.
Once there was a guy who said to me, you know, when you prostrate to a statue of the Buddha, it's like, why are you prostrating to a statue of the Buddha? Like a statue of the Buddha, it's like made out of clay, or it's made out of metal, or it's made out of some stuff. And so just prostrating to this thing that's just stuff, how does that help? Isn't that just superstition? Isn't that stupid? But actually, it's not like that. When we prostrated, it's not like we're thinking, oh, I'm prostrating to clay, or I'm prostrating to some sort of metal. That's not what we're thinking about. The metal or the earth that is in the stupa, it's not like ordinary metal and earth. This, when we see it, has the power to remind us of the deeds of the Buddha. It has the power to remind us of the kindness of the Buddha. And so it has the power to give us, to inspire us to faith and devotion. And so when we see these and we feel that and we remember this and then we prostrate, then it brings us. It has the power to help us develop qualities within our own minds. And so that's why we make offerings to statues. That's why we prostrate to statues. And it is the same with stupas. Now, with this stupa, there is actually a special power, and that is the reason for that is that when the Dharma spread here in the West, whose kindness is it by which the Dharma spread here? It's primarily because of the kindness of the 16th Gyalwang Karmapa Rolpe Dorje, because he saw that in order to spread the Dharma, he had to assemble all the right conditions for the Dharma, and so he sent great masters such as Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche and Kyabje Kala Rinpoche here, who then taught the Dharma and spread the Dharma. Not only that, the Gyalwang Karmapa himself actually came to the West. He actually came here to this place. He stepped foot in this very place. He made prayers, he made aspirations, and developed wonderful intentions. And it's because of that that now those of us who teach Dharma are able to teach Dharma. Those of us who listen to the Dharma are able to listen to the Dharma. And those of us who practice the Dharma are able to practice the Dharma. It's because of his great, profound, vast activity that we're able to do this. And then not only that, later the third Jamgun Kongtrul Rinpoche said that it would be good to have the seed of the mind of the Gyalwang Karmapa here in Crestone, and said it would be good to build the stupa here. And so the stupa was built, and now the wisdom mind of the Gyalwang Karmapa is present here. And if we see this, and we pray to it, and we make offerings, then we will be able to receive the really wonderful blessings that it has. And it is something that will be really helpful for our minds.
Tene ta tela ya chitang cheten tangaran zu namba sanji pala chulu mandawa kande ina yang cheten mandawa mangbo yore de ina yang songho doje tipala ngaran zu songho doje tipelo la tene cheten la pe hachang tanda chachang rabo ta pe kodik rabo pe yabo yore la tene te yang kande ji sungwa de sena tombo Kelo Chusong, Song Zula Kongin Becapsel, Kempo Bodhisattva, Tini Chetin Namba Nam Yane, Tini Tela, Silap Nangtang, Be Hipcha Yapa, Tini Silap Cheparjin Yapa, Tatindi, Tini Tia, Tanda Zo, Nangten La, Tini Tanda Shaji, Tasung Doji Tipala Jide Penone, Shaji, Zutur Trimi, Wezir Trimi, Chinkori Yang. Tini tela sasa tenzu chetin jada ji la sopa mambo yene ta tinan tu jo tini tela duba ja nyamlin se shinlap na ta tindi se lege shasul chungwa re la te chungwa tenya tini te manyampa tini chisu tanda nima ki chuni yena tini tanda Kenshin Chupal Janso Tanda Meling Losing Damahir Gatiniti Tanda Kenshin Bodhisattva Shasul Chetawa Yendo Hipcha Wola Tenin Cheting Wola Country Gugi Tita indo tenim chatting uso tene visit to tutor to me jinkur candidates yango yapa jinkur tenzol sinap candidates nango yapa tela cherem candidate gongo yapa tela nyamling candidate nango yapa tita indo chatting candidates and tanda sasa tenzo candidates yago yapa tenzo pe hipcha Tejendo ngaranzo kaji bishuni na country and Tinjansu, Tietardo, Hichanani, Tatig, many losing Damahirta, country and Tinjansu, Sua, Yendo, Ngaranzo, Tanda, Tig, Trijin, Manyampa, Shojin, Manyampa, Tini Chasa, Yorella, Tinite, Chitang, and Chetin Mambu Yoreti, Tinani, Chitang, Chetin, Manda Wonderful, Yorella, Tiniti, Tachitang, Lujuzam. Hyopayam Latini Tela, Chenambeki Sani Koraja, Melam Yapoja, Tatinde Naruche.
Now, generally, when we talk about stupas, in Buddhism there are many different traditions and there are many different stupas in the different traditions. But in our secret mantra Vajrayana tradition, we have the great stupa. We really have, we do it right. So, we have all the different types of stupas. We prepare them and we do them really well. And so, how is it that this came about? Well, when the Khenpo Bodhisattva, Guru Rinpoche, and the Dharma King Trison Detsen were building the temple at Samye, then Khenpo Bodhisattva built different stupas of different types, and he taught how it is to bless the stupas, and he taught it in great detail how to do it. There are great blessings in this, and so he talked about how to do it, what needs to be inside the stupa, and everything that needs to be in it. And so in terms of the tantras, there are the 4 classes of the tantras, and the lowest of these classes is the action tantra, or the kriya tantra. And so according to the kriya tantra, there are the 2 tantras of the stainless light and the stainless ushnisha, the crown protuberance on the top of the Buddha's head. The stainless light and the stainless ushnisha, how to put those in the stupa, how to put the 108 different satsas, or small stupas in, what sort of practices that you have to do, what sort of accomplishment you sort of need, how to bless it. And so that is how this tradition began, and up to this day, this tradition has been preserved. It's been preserved without any weakening at all. Later in the Nyingma tradition, there was the great master Minglin Lochen Dharma, Lama Dharmashiri, who taught how to build stupas exactly as Khenpo Bodhisattva Shantodakshita had taught. He taught, what is it that you need to place underneath the stupa? Then, in the middle of the stupa, how is it that you put the mandalas of the stainless light, or the stainless radiance, and the stainless ushnisha? What sort of creation phase meditations do you need to do? What sort of practice do you need to do? How is it that you put the satsas, the small stupas, molded stupas inside? He taught this in great detail. Then in our own Kagyu tradition, Jamgon Kongtrul Yunten Gyatso, the first Kongtrul Rinpoche, also taught exactly how to do this. And so we have now these traditions of how to do this according to the Minglan Lochen and the Jamgon Dharmashiri. I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names. The Minglan Lochen Dharmashiri. And Jamgon Kongtrul, we are still able to do this, and the instructions are still there. The tradition of the instructions is still there. The tradition of actually doing it is still extant, and so for that reason, our stupas are special. They're wonderful stupas, and so this is sort of just the history, the background of it all. So you all tomorrow, please go to the stupa and please circumambulate the stupa, and please make good aspiration prayers.